Meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer. Here. Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Baines. Here. Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Taylor. Here. Ms. Taylor is present. Chairwoman DeFlorio.
Here.
Present. Mr. Frazier.
Here.
Mr. Frazier.
The clerk's office is happy to announce that the audiovisual professionals have completed the necessary adjustments needed to address the live microphones when streaming on YouTube. Going forward, all microphones should only be considered live when unmuted by the clerk's office when the legislator obtains the floor. The clerk's office will continually monitor each microphone in case of any lapses or gaps that may have been missed. Thank you. Is there anyone signed up for public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak who would like to address the audience at this time? None. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Senior Planner Patrick Gooch. Thank you. I'm sorry. Sorry, read that wrong. So he's now going to give a brief overview of the 2023-2028 capital improvement program as it pertains to planning and economic development. Apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You should all have a copy of the County Executive's recommended 2023-2028 CIP. The process for pulling together the CIP is essentially the same every year. In fall, departments are asked to propose projects for the CIP according to guidelines established by the CIP Review Committee. Guidelines include consistency with last year's program and adding new projects in the latter years of the program unless clearly justified. Throughout the fall, the CIP reviews the proposed projects and makes changes based on project priority and fiscal constraints on the program. In December, the committee presents a recommended CIP to the County Executive. The County Executive's comments are incorporated into the CIP after the first of the year, he submits his recommended CIP to the County Planning Board. During the winter, the Monroe County Planning Board reviews the CIP, holds a public information meeting, sets priorities for the capital budget year, which is the first year of the CIP, and submits its recommended CIP to the County Executive. The County Executive takes the opportunity to make further revisions if needed, and then submits the recommended CIP to your honorable body in May. In June, you will set a public hearing for the July legislature meeting, and then, upon your favorable review, vote to adopt the plan. The capital budget is presented with the operating budget and is adopted in December, when bond resolutions are passed for the projects included in 2023 in the adopted CIP. The 6-year program is summarized in Table 1 on pages 2 to 3 of the CIP. Let's look at the program in terms of funding sources, budget year funding, and new projects. This year, you also have a supplement to the CIP, which breaks down cash spending in the C, D, and E categories where appropriate. Recommended total program funding is almost $498 million. Total county funding is just over $279 million in the recommended CIP, just over 56% of the total CIP. There are two kinds of county funding, bonding and county cash. Projects that use county cash are paid for out of operating funds and do not impact the county's debt. The supplement to the CIP summarizes cash spending, referred to as CC in the tables and in the front. Total district funding is used by the Pure Waters program and accounts for almost 17% of total CIP funding. There are two kinds of district funding, bonding and district cash. Projects that use district cash are paid for out of operating funds and do not impact Pure Waters' debt. Enterprise funding, or user fees, for the hospital, airport, and solid waste accounts for 5.4% of the total CIP funding. There are two kinds of enterprise funding, bonding and cash. Projects that use cash are paid for out of operating funds. State and federal funding is used in the MCC, airport, facilities, traffic engineering, highway and bridges, and sheriff's programs. Together, state and federal funding account for almost 18% of the CIP funding. There is close to $16.8 million in private funding in this CIP. The Seneca Park Zoo Society is donating over $15 million to the Tropics exhibit. Also, a private developer is planning to pay for a portion of the East River Road project. Table 2, on pages 4 and 5 of your CIP, lists 64 capital budget projects in priority order as determined by the Monroe County Planning Board. 2023 capital projects will require over $125 million in total funding. I'm going to go over and highlight a few departments with new projects in the CIP. MCC's funding plan, which begins on page 11, contains 9 projects, 3 of which are new: optimize campus wayfinding, enhance pedestrian safety and connectivity, and improve transit services and facilities. Note that all county funding for MCC is matched by the state. MCC's program accounts for 14.5% of the total capital program. Moving on to the Department of Environmental Services. The Pure Waters program begins on page 38. 3 new projects are introduced to the CIP in 2028. This is the Irondequoit Bay Pump Station improvements, general CSOP tunnel system improvements, and NWQ-WWTF electrical improvements, or Northwest Quadrant. General improvements to the sanitary sewer system in each district are funded with district cash and so will not impact the district's debt service payments. The Facilities Management Program begins on page 46 of your CIP. There is 1 new project, City Place General Improvements, which is introduced into the CIP in 2028. The 6-year program for county funding of the Parks Department begins on page 53. There are 10 parks projects in the CIP. Oatka Creek Park Master Plan Update is new in 2028. The Parks program accounts for 2.5% of this recommended capital program. The zoo does not have a new project in this CIP. The schedule and amount of funding for the Tropical Exhibit and Main Entry Plaza project changed from the adopted CIP. This program leverages private funding from the nonprofit Seneca Zoo Society in New York State. In this CIP, the zoo accounts for 13.2% of the total program. The Department of Transportation, Highways and Bridges program begins on page 60 of the CIP and includes 3 new projects. The Highway Preventive Maintenance number 10 project received approval for federal funding in 2024. The county will cover 5%, or approximately $370,000, of the $7.4 million project. County funds for the Trolley Boulevard from Long Pond Road to Lee Road and Jacobs Road Bridge over Yantee Creek are programmed for 2028. Information about the Department of Public Safety's 6-year program begins on page 79. There are 15 projects in this program. One of these projects, Special Operations Vehicle Replacement for the Fire Bureau, is new. The first 3 projects in the program will be funded by county cash from the operating budget. No borrowing is involved. The Public Safety program accounts for just over 3% of the total capital program. The Sheriff's program begins on page 88. There are 10 projects in the Sheriff's program. 2 new projects are included for 2028. Radio communications infrastructure for jail and court bureau, and Sheriff's Special Operations building upgrades. The Special Operations building is at Fleet Center and is currently a covered patio. The proposal is to enclose it. The Sheriff's vehicles replacements will be funded with cash. The Sheriff's program accounts for 5% of the total capital program. I'll be happy to take questions when the committee gets to this item on your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. You have the February 14th, 2022 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
22-0161, adopt the 2023 through 2028 capital improvement program.
By legislator Taylor, seconded by legislator Elkoffer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
22-0175, 2022 annual action plan for housing and community development in suburban Monroe County and grant submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
By legislator Elkoffer, seconded by legislator Taylor. Is there any discussion? Yes, legislator Baines.
rise in poverty in the suburbs is one of the stories of the last 20 years. And the rise in rent costs and homeownership costs is really the great story of the last several years. I noticed that there's an actual decrease in the amount of funds available. And I know you don't control that, but my question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration is, what is the relationship between the available funding and the need as you perceive it or understand it on the ground in the suburban communities in our county?
Through the chair, as far as available homeownership, we have a lack of available single-family homes. Allows for us to develop or acquire vacant properties, rehab it, and resell it to. We also have our home improvement program that allows us to assist existing homeowners to be able to.
I couldn't quite hear all that, but I think what I heard was that we're more focused on assisting people to stay in their homes as opposed to obtaining a new homeownership.
No, we're doing both through the chair.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item 22-0176, amend Resolution 194 of 2021 to authorize the Second Amendment to Monroe County's 2021 Annual Action Plan for the Home Investment Partnership's American Rescue Plan program to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
By legislator Taylor, seconded by legislator Elkoffer. Is there any discussion? Yes, legislator Frazier.
Administration. So kind of like with the suburban, with the need that is greater, how do we address that when there's such a great need?
Chair, can you repeat that, please?
Sure. So our office gets more requests for housing than what's allowed. And so my question is, how do we address when there's not a lot of enough housing available for the amount of money that is going to be given?
Through the chair, as I said, for the acquisition rehab program, we have to actually acquire the properties and rehab the properties and sell it to a first-time home buyer, or they can't compete with market rates or, homeowners that do not have an income limit and don't have the HUD restrictions that we do.
Yes, legislator Baines.
You, to the administration. How has the labor shortage and availability of tradespeople affected our ability to deliver this program to our neediest people in need of housing security?
Through the chair, it has been impacting us for the last couple of years, but we have good contractors that want to work with Monroe County and want to work with our division, so that's helped us.
Madam Chairwoman, do our contractors have mentorship programs, or do they do apprentice programs as they rehabilitate our housing with young women and men who are interested in the trade?
Through the chair, they're small, family-owned, sometimes individual homeowner, or I'm sorry, contractor and owners. So they don't have the ability to be able to mentor students or others that may be interested in the program
Thank
or
you.
interested in construction, excuse me.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I do have a few questions to the administration. The increase the $4 million additional allocation that we are voting on right now. The referral lists out an allocation of the planned spending of that 4 million. Was that an allocation plan that was mapped out by the County of Monroe, or is that prescribed by HUD?
Through the chair, the 4 million was prescribed by HUD. The formula that was broken down was based on survey results. And so we ranked them based on what the community needed or has requested.
Thank you. So in the allocation of essentially 1.5 million for development of affordable rental housing, do you have specific towns that you're targeting that allocation?
Through the chair, not at the moment. This plan is a requirement by HUD, and they just want us to break down the percentages of funding that we want to set aside for each category. And at some point later on, once HUD approves this plan, we will do an RFP to solicit development of future affordable housing.
Thank you. And assuming at that time, we will be passing referrals, but could we perhaps also just get a communication that it ties back to this amendment so that we can kind of see where that planned money is being spent?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. And then I guess my last question on this plan is that 15% of the $4 million is being allocated to administration. Is that administration, again, within the County of Monroe or to some other entity?
To the chair, it's for Monroe County, for our team.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the May 23rd meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee will be held on Monday, June 27th at 5:45 p.m.